So I'm a guy who likes to mess around with computers sometimes. And, recently, yesterday, I decided to try out Linux. Yes, I installed Linux Mint on my system, completely wiped Windows, the old crappy dusty Windows that I hadn't replaced in like 3 years. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to refresh my operating system, I might as well just, go ahead, try out Linux because, I've been watching a lot of videos about Linux. Not only the PewDiePie, okay, I'm not one of those people who watches one video and immediately makes a huge life change. No, I've been thinking about Linux for a long time. I have Linux Mint also installed on my laptop, so I thought, hey, it works well on the laptop. Might as well try, switching my main system to Linux Mint, especially considering things like Steam Proton, which is basically a compatibility layer which allows you to play Windows games, Steam games that are made for Windows on Linux. So that was kind of the main thing that I said to myself, okay, might as well try. And I kind of do need to use other applications which aren't really native to Windows. Linux, sorry, which are native to Linux. And I thought, okay, if there ever is such a program, I'm just going to get a virtual machine, and then using that virtual machine, I will boot up, Windows and get that program running. For example, if I need to do some graphic design homework or something like that, right? So that's kind of the one of those things. But basically, this is just kind of precursor. I will go into kind of my whole Linux experience, a little bit later on. But what I will say is that Linux, while I did enjoy the whole Linux experience, I think the Linux in general is Linux Mint was perfect. I installed it, everything worked, everything that Linux Mint is responsible for, everything that they could do was good. I had no problems with any of the general systems. The problems, as you will see in the video later on, came when I needed to get software. So open source software like VLC, OBS had no problems with those. Also, although when I installed OBS, my system and launched it, my system became 30% laggier. So I don't know what that was about. But programs like DaVinci Resolve, Logitech G Hub, or one of my favorite, most used programs, Wallpaper Engine, just don't really work on Linux. Yes, DaVinci Resolve does have a Linux support, but I will showcase that in the video. So, without some further ado, let's get into the video. Here's me. Yes, Linux Mint. So basically, Linux Mint 21.1. I chose the Cinema Edition, which is it comes pretty packed with all kinds of things, right? And I already got Hogwarts Legacy and Townscaper here, which Townscaper, it works. Hogwarts Legacy, it also works, but that is also one of the reasons why I will be switching back to Windows. Now, Linux. It is, the installation process was incredibly simple. It was, in my opinion, very nice. I didn't have any problems installing Linux. The only problem that I did come across was that whenever you install Linux, you're basically kind of, how do I put this? You're forced to choose one drive, and that is the drive that you will be using for everything, right? So unlike Windows, where you can have your system, your main system on drive C, which can be like, I don't know, like 100 gigabytes, and then have another drive, which is like 2 terabytes as I have. On Linux, you can't. If your system is on drive C, which is 100 gigabytes, you can only really download things from the. As you can see, there's also some like glitching right now happening, which didn't happen on Windows. So this game is glitching out a little bit. But essentially, if you want to, for example, like with Package Manager, Software Manager, download something, you can't really choose kind of where to download it. So download it. So for example, like let's see if I want to download Blender, I can't really I can only click install, and there's like no settings to where to kind of download it on a different drive. So I can only download it on one drive, right? So that was my first problem. I had to reinstall the system because I installed it on the 100 GB drive, and I had a 2 TB drive, plus I also have a 200 another 200 gigabyte SSD, so I chose that later on. But essentially, I downloaded it. Then I went to sleep. I woke up, started installing all the games, Hogwarts Legacy, which I installed actually overnight, and everything else. Got this little wallpaper, and everything was fine. But and I kind of booted up Hogwarts Legacy. It was kind of working, but I just booted it up to see if it actually would boot up. So I didn't really go into actually seeing if it performs well. And then I got to installing DaVinci Resolve. Everything else was working fine, OBS, everything. And then we got to DaVinci Resolve. I got it to work after 3 hours of conversation with ChatGPT, with forums online, endless YouTube videos, and only then did I get it to work. And when I got it to work, it's through basically entering my friggin' password through a terminal, and only then does it boot up. It's not even a click and use kind of feature, which is actually this wasn't the deal breaker for me. For me, the deal breaker was Hogwarts Legacy. But this was one of the things that kind of ruined my whole day, because I had to spend like actually hours trying to configure this, because at first, as it turns out, Blackmagic Design, the company who produces this specific software, it does have, if we go on DaVinci Resolve, it does have support for Linux. So whenever I was switching to Linux, I was like, okay, well, this software has support for Linux. So if free download, it does have a Linux option. The thing they don't tell you is that the Linux option, it's a Linux option only for a specific type of Linux distro. So if I go onto my files, and I go into my file system, right? Okay, let's now actually downloads. Where's this? So as you can see, the original kind of installer is a .run file, which on Ubuntu-based systems, as far as I understand, like Linux Mint, Ubuntu, Pop! OS, it doesn't work. So the distribution of this program, which is essentially a Linux, like, yeah, this is Linux, they say Linux, it doesn't work on this software. So what I had to do is install this other program, I forgot which one, and then I had to run a script, basically, and through a complex line of code, I got to this .deb package, which actually does run on this Linux. So I installed it, and then I had the problem of it not opening on my system. Imagine that. It's not opening on my system, it's not doing anything, and only then did I realize that it only opened with, sudo command prompts. I had to sudo and then the thing. So basically, actually, I can just show y'all it right here. So if I go DaVinci Resolve, properties, as you can see, sudo opt resolve.bin, so it only works through this command. It doesn't work otherwise, which is fine. But for me to get to the point of installing this software and actually using it, it was like 4 hours, a headache, and just a giant mess. And that was just one piece of software. The next problem is my microphone. Now I use a Logitech, I forgot, Pro X Gaming headset, something like that, G-Hub, which is a software that only is on Windows, Mac OS, and you can't even get this through Wine to work. And why I need this software is because my headset has, with G-Hub, a basically a feature where it enhances the audio quality. Now I don't know how, but I think the kind of presets that I had here stayed on this headset, so it still sounds pretty good right on Linux. But it's kind of like one day it works, the second next day it doesn't work, right? So I really don't trust that. But that still was fine. I mean, I was like, okay. I mean, I'm already feeling very shitty about this. I'm not feeling good. Like, I'm feeling pretty bad because like all of these softwares, like this is not the fault of Linux. I'm not like saying Linux is a bad, operating system. No, Linux is a good operating system. The problem is that everything that you need to kind of, not for everybody, obviously, if you're some like grandma who only needs to, open Facebook, it's fine. But for a person who needs like 10 different types of software to make content and do other things, to play games, Linux, yeah, you can get by, you can do it, but Windows just provides much more support. It's much easier. Like on Windows, you just install and you do it. It's like it's a out of a box experience. Now, obviously, you sacrifice stuff, like convenience sometimes also. But I know my experience using Windows was much better than using kind of Linux, right? And as I said, this is not the fault of Linux itself. This is the fault of nobody really. It's just that Linux doesn't have support like programs. Like I also need Adobe. What am I going to do about that? I mean, my plan was to make a virtual machine and then use that within the virtual machine, which doesn't really work. So, I mean, like at this point, it's just Hogwarts Legacy. It just runs worse. It Hogwarts Legacy, it runs like, I mean, I can show y'all, I think. Basically, it runs like it does on, on Windows, only about 10% worse. And my computer is not a computer with, it's a mid-range, right? I mean, I have an RX 580, i3 3000 series Intel CPU, so any kind of performance drop, even 5-10% drop, I really noticed that. I can't afford to lose that kind of, performance. So, and like, look at this, like on Windows, it already opened. Like on Linux, everything is just slower, right? Everything is much slower. Everything is, okay, not everything. I will say booting up Linux is faster, and there are a lot of parts I do like about it. But I just can't. It's just it doesn't work. It's not an experience that you like. I sit at the computer a lot. I mean, I play games a lot. I do all kinds of things a lot, and I can't like using Linux. I don't know how other people do it. I don't know how some ordinary gamers do it. Maybe he doesn't stream, right? A lot of Linux people don't stream. But as a person who, doesn't have the best computer, who needs every little squeeze of, performance, like, look at, like loading screen is even lagging, you know what I mean? It's not a big deal for the loading screen to lag. Like, look, the cursor lags. On Windows, it never lagged like this. It never, I mean, okay, we can play a bit, right? And yeah. So that's kind of my take on, yeah. Well, I mean, at least I tried some Linux. I can't say that I haven't tried it. I do have it on my laptop, and on my laptop, it's perfect. On my laptop, it's a perfect experience, primarily because it's my second system. It's the system I use to watch movies in bed. It's the system I use to maybe write a document. It's the system I use to check social media. It's not the system I use to play games. It's not the system I use to do most of my things. And on that system, there's only one drive. Obviously, if I had a better system which could handle more, maybe then, because at the end I did get DaVinci Resolve working, but as you can see, it already is lagging. On Windows, I don't remember perfectly, but it never lagged like this. Never had such substantial lag. And one thing I forgot to say is that I have 3 drives. And the drives, whenever I restart the computer, they get removed from Steam. And when that happens, my Hogwarts Legacy disappears because it's on another drive, because I don't want to fill up my primary drive. Which you could say, oh, we just get better hardware. I'm just, well, to work on Windows. Like, what are you talking about? So let's see, settings. Is it even on low? It's on low and it's still lagging. Like, I understand that maybe I could get this to work. But at this point, number one, that might just work on Hogwarts Legacy, not all games. Number two, I already spent my whole day trying to configure everything else. Look, this is not a kind of, okay, he's just, a regular old Joe. He can't handle, using a computer that is not, built for, newbies or something like that. Like, I will admit, I'm not a computer, person. I don't really code, but I have went through a lot of trouble to try and get this shit to work, to get all of the programs I need, to actually like use Linux. And after a day, yes, it's only a day, but I spent the whole day on the computer, right? It's look. Let me look at this. Look how laggy it is. It's just I can't even fucking use the game. And I forgot to mention this. I had this game, right? And I switched the settings from from ultra, because it was on ultra, to low. The game crashed. I didn't pull the plug on the computer, but I did use, I think it was Alt sys requirement, and then the I forgot what that word was, to kind of shut it down, reboot it, because nothing was working. Nothing was working. It was just completely frozen. So I didn't want to, pull the plug and just, pull the plug on the computer. So it broke, and after it broke, right? All right. Basically, after it broke, the game just broke. It wasn't turning on, so I had to go into the file system. And I had to go to disk C, Steam Library, Steam Apps. I forgot. Like, I think it was Common, Hogwarts Legacy, Engine, Data. Yeah, I had to go comp data. I think that's what it's called. And I had to make this a backup, basically invalidate this, so it generates this another time. I know that would have probably happened on Windows, but on Windows it didn't crash for 10 hours, even when even when it should have crashed, probably. So yeah, that has been my experience with Linux. I wanted to make this video purely to purely to kind of educate other people on Linux, because there's a lot of stuff going online, like, oh, Linux is the god of operating systems and everything like that, which I will say, I think it is one of the most promising operating systems, but as of now, it is not an operating system that I would want to use. I think it has a lot of potential. I think it has a lot of pros going for it that are much better than Microsoft has. But as of now, for a regular person who just wants to do things on the computer, like if I want to make videos, I don't want to be sitting for 10 hours trying to decipher code. I want to just be making a video, and that's what I mean. And I will say Linux so far, a Linux Mint hasn't been an experience where you need a lot of code, at least not for the Linux things. Like not like not because of like, oh, you're installing Linux and suddenly to boot you need to write a lot of code. No, it's like more like just because some stupid developer doesn't want to support it, I have to write code and fix it, something like that, right? So yeah, I didn't, as you can see, utilize the optimization, not customization features too much. That's because I just wanted to get everything working at first and then focus on that. Also, I'm quite fine with this kind of toolbar, simple, like I don't see why I would need to do much more with this. Like, I mean, a lot of people, they go all nutty about this. I mean, maybe if I started doing it, I would too, but as of now, I'm just fine with basically just accessing all of my apps. So I'm quite fine with that. Now I also have a second monitor, and that's a whole different story. It's just worked out of the box. Like, second monitor worked immediately, I will say that. But the problem is it didn't have a toolbar, which I did add, but I couldn't figure out how to add like Spotify on the other toolbar. It also doesn't, the selection tool doesn't work there. Essentially, it's problems probably could be fixed, but I haven't gotten to it. So yeah, so I wanted to make this video as kind of like for people thinking about that, for thinking about Linux, and kind of everything. I think that Linux in general, it's promising, it's good, but if you just want to use a computer, it's not. Like if you really want to it depends on what you do, right? It really depends on what you do, what you really care about. But personally, for me, I really don't care much for doing too much. Like I like doing like kind of computer stuff, but I like doing it when I want to do it. I don't want to like be trying to install a software I need to use and then be running into 10 different roadblocks and keep thinking about, okay, what if I can't use it, right? So I think I'll just switch back to Windows. Maybe at some point I will try to get Linux. Maybe I will dual boot, which I don't think I will. Like I mean, like no. But yeah, for me, Linux currently is just a system that's on my laptop, on my second system that is just for, opening the web, doing some basic things. And obviously, it's also like Linux, it differs system to system because as saw, I have three drives. One is, a smaller drive, which I want to, use for the actual system, this operating system, and the others for the actual software, which works just perfectly on Windows. So if you have a system with a big SSD, then obviously you can do that. You that won't be a problem for you. But then again, things like DaVinci Resolve, gaming software, I had a little bit of problems. Actually, I didn't have any problems with drivers, which is really great that you have a driver manager. So that's one thing going for Linux is that you just open it, and actually I'll just showcase it. So this is one of the best things about this is that it immediately installs the necessary drivers, which I think also is on Windows, but I think on Linux it's more this is just it works better. So that's one thing. So the thing is that Linux controls are perfect in my opinion, like the software manager, but the things that Linux doesn't control, like other programs which don't go hand in hand with Linux, are problematic. Like DaVinci Resolve, like Hogwarts Legacy. I will say huge respect to Steam for making gaming actually possible on Linux. Huge thanks to Steam for making gaming possible on Linux because um without Proton, without all these good things, it just wouldn't be possible to game on Linux. So I think in a couple of years, maybe, but currently, just for a regular guy trying to make videos and content, it's way too much of a headache. It's way too much. Maybe if I wasn't trying to get all of the software and trying to play games on my system. My system can't really handle. Maybe then, but as you can saw, even Townscaper was glitching out. So it's really a matter of perspective. It's a matter of convenience, and yeah. So huge respect to all you guys who actually do use Linux. So this is my main system. As you can see, I'm on my main system. I'm doing everything on here, and so this was no. One thing I do realize I should have tried to dual boot or use a virtual machine. So I can actually try and do all the things I wanted to do and then see how easy that would have been. Instead, I literally just went ahead and did it. Primarily because kind of impulsive, didn't really, I knew that I wanted the Windows out, or at least reinstall it, so I was going to be reinstalling it anyway. So that's one thing, but yeah. So basically, hope you enjoyed the video. This was my experience with Linux. I do hope this proved useful to some of you. I do hope it was interesting. And yeah, so if you want to try Linux, I suggest you just do it on VM. Even you can also try. Actually, no, that doesn't really work. But whenever you install Linux, you can actually kind of check it out. With the little USB before committing. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, so that's see, like, what even was that? Now I have to go search online why that's happening, try and solve, and it's like every game has its own quirks on Linux. So yeah, it's kind of my video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to make the next one on Windows, and goodbye.